Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of October 3, 2025. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Ogantoye, an infantry officer. Over the past week, Russian forces carried out large-scale precision strikes by air, land, sea, and UAV platforms targeting Ukraine's military-industrial complex, energy infrastructure, and logistics hubs. Objectives were achieved: destruction of rail nodes, weapons transport corridors, airfields, ammunition depots, UAV storage, and temporary troop deployments. Key impact: disruption of Ukraine's weapons production and battlefield sustainment capacity.
Welcome to Frontline Updates, the podcast that brings you in-depth insights into military operations from those leading them on the ground. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Ogantoye, an infantry officer monitoring critical missions on the progress of the special military operation as of today. Colonel Ogantoye, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Colonel Ogantoye, let's begin with the broader picture. Can you summarize what the past week looked like in terms of Russian strikes and their objectives?
Yes. Over the past week, Russian forces employed a multi-domain strike campaign utilizing long-range precision weapons from air, ground, and naval platforms, complemented by swarms of strike UAVs. The primary targets were Ukraine's military-industrial facilities, power and energy infrastructure sustaining production, as well as transportation corridors, particularly railways that facilitate the movement of Western-supplied weapons. In operational terms, the strikes served a dual purpose, degrading Ukraine's capacity to generate combat power internally, while simultaneously limiting its ability to transport reinforcements and equipment forward to the tactical line. The campaign's success is measured not just in physical damage, factories disabled, depots destroyed, but in its cascading effect. Ukrainian brigades at the front now face reduced resupply windows, delays in armored reinforcement, and growing uncertainty about the sustainability of their defense over the coming weeks.
Let's move sector by sector, starting with the north, particularly Kharkiv. What has happened there?
In the northern axis, Russian North Troop Group inflicted severe attrition on Ukrainian brigades, mechanized, infantry, ranger, and airborne. Losses were measured in over 1,200 personnel, tanks, artillery pieces, and logistics vehicles. Importantly, 29 ammunition depots and 2 electronic warfare stations were eliminated.
Why does this matter?
Because Kharkiv has long been both a symbolic and operational anchor for Ukraine's defenses. By steadily eroding personnel strength and removing stockpiles, Russia is shaping conditions for either a deeper penetration into northern defenses or forcing Ukraine to divert forces from other threatened sectors to reinforce this axis. Either outcome weakens Ukraine elsewhere.
Turning to the west, Donetsk, where Russian units liberated several settlements. What's the operational picture there?
The Western Front saw decisive gains. Settlements such as Kharkiv, Shandrigalovo, and Darilovo were liberated, demonstrating Russia's ability to penetrate layered defenses. Ukrainian brigades, airmobile, mechanized, and National Guard suffered over 1,600 casualties and lost critical electronic warfare and counterbattery systems. The destruction of 37 counterbattery stations is a significant development. Ukraine has relied heavily on counterbattery fire, enabled by NATO radar systems, to blunt Russian artillery. By removing these assets, Russia has not only silenced guns but also created freedom of maneuver for its own artillery to shape the battlespace with fewer interruptions.
And in the south? The report mentioned Mayskoye and Seversk-Mali.
Yes, the southern axis delivered both territorial gains and attritional pressure. By capturing Mayskoye and Seversk-Mali, Russian units achieved two things. They pushed deeper into the Donetsk People's Republic while simultaneously collapsing secondary defensive lines. Ukrainian mountain assault brigades, specialized troops, were particularly hard hit. Another point is the capture and destruction of Western-supplied armored fighting vehicles. This shows that while NATO equipment bolsters Ukraine tactically, it is vulnerable without adequate air cover and logistics. Losing these vehicles demoralizes units trained specifically around Western kit and demonstrates that Russian combined arms integration, artillery, drones, and maneuver remains effective.
Let's shift to the center, covering Donetsk into Dnipropetrovsk. What happened there?
The Central Front was the bloodiest this past week. Ukrainian elite formations, Marines, airborne, and mechanized brigades suffered over 3,500 casualties. Importantly, 2 U.S.-made Bradley infantry fighting vehicles were destroyed in the fighting. What we see here is Russia prosecuting high-intensity offensive operations designed to bleed Ukraine's best units. By forcing these brigades into repeated engagements, Russia achieves disproportionate results. It destroys formations that take years to train and cannot be easily regenerated, even with Western assistance. This is the attritional calculus at the heart of the campaign.
What about the East Group of forces?
In the east, settlements Stepovoy and Verbovoy were liberated. Ukrainian brigades lost more than 2,000 men in this sector. The eastern push is significant for 2 reasons. First, it chips away at the depth of Ukraine's defensive reserves in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Second, it positions Russian units for potential link-up operations that could threaten Ukrainian supply lines feeding the southern and central fronts.
Finally, the Dnieper front. This is a more complex environment with river defenses. What's the status there?
The Dnieper axis has always been a logistical challenge due to the river crossings, but this week Russia inflicted notable losses on Ukraine's coastal defense brigades. Over 390 personnel, 4 armored vehicles, and 28 electronic warfare stations were destroyed. Destroying EW stations in this riverine zone is particularly impactful. It reduces Ukraine's situational awareness and limits its ability to coordinate artillery across the riverbanks. Operationally, this weakens Ukraine's ability to secure the river as a defensive boundary and opens the prospect for Russian exploitation in future campaigns.
Before we close, could you touch on the role of Russian air defense this past week?
Yes. Russian air defenses neutralized 10 glide bombs, 17 MRs and Vampire rockets, 5 Neptune cruise missiles, and nearly 1,000 UAVs. This shows resilience against Western-provided long-range strike systems. Each interception not only preserves infrastructure and troop safety, but also signals to Ukraine that its reliance on Western strike systems may not yield decisive breakthroughs.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to emphasize that the cumulative effect of this week's operations is twofold. Tactically, Russia continues to gain territory in multiple sectors, secure liberated settlements, and reduce Ukraine's ability to hold ground. Strategically, Ukraine is being pushed toward an exhaustion state, brigades depleted, Western equipment lost, and infrastructure destroyed. As winter approaches, Russia's attritional pressure, combined with infrastructure targeting, sets conditions for a campaign where Ukrainian forces will face shortages in fuel, munitions, and replacements. The operational tempo favors Russia, and Ukraine will increasingly rely on Western aid not merely for advantage but for survival.
This has been Frontline Updates. Subscribe for daily military briefings and in-depth strategic analysis. Visit our platform for maps, transcripts, and exclusive Frontline updates from commanders in theater.